Welcome, everyone. We're happy that you're here with us today. Like I said earlier, this will be recorded for folks that are unable to join but want to watch after the presentation. I'm here with Lauren Grizzinski of Rogard Advocacy Studios, and we're going to talk about how we are going to work together to help LGBTQ people with disabilities understand and navigate working while on benefits. So welcome. Lauren, do you want me to advance the slide?
I can do it. There we go.
So again, I'm Christy Carter. I'm the Aging and Disability Coordinator at the Milwaukee LGBT Community Center, and I'm joined by my colleague, and I'll let you introduce yourself, Lauren.
Hi, my name is Lauren Grizzinski. I'm a work incentives benefits specialist, and I'm also a disability rights advocate. I am legally blind myself, and I am an artist, and I help people understand how working is going to affect their benefits. And I know none of those things go together, but I like to be contrary.
So today, these are the session objectives. We'll be talking about what work incentives are and why benefit counseling is beneficial, what types of benefit programs are there for people with disabilities, an overview of work incentives for different disability programs, learn how your benefit related insurance may be affected by working, and learn how to access benefits counseling, as well as how the Milwaukee LGBT Center and Rogard Advocacy Services work together to assist LGBT people that have a disability. So,
all right. Okay, so just a little background. I am a individual has been through the system and then was trained to through the system, meaning Social Security. I was on Social Security disability, and then I worked off of them. And I'm actually in my current second round of benefits myself. So I'm actually kind of in this really weird in-between place where my job is to educate people on the work incentives and the Social Security I call it the continuum, and the work incentives, but I'm also living it at the same time, which is very interesting. It's an interesting parallel. And something that always is important to me is benefit literacy. So what that means is you as the beneficiary, or you as the person helping the beneficiary, or as the support person to the beneficiary, need to know the language that Social Security uses so you can help be a translator. I mean, that's kind of what I say my job is as a work incentives benefit specialist. Basically, I translate all of the funky rules that go with the Social Security kind of program and working and all that stuff, and how it kind of correlates to, the state and whatnot. But that long-winded kind of intro aside, my point about benefit literacy is that work incentives isn't really a term that people hear a lot. When I speak with people about their work incentives, a lot of times it gets kind of smushed because it's not something you hear very often, but it's something that Social Security specifically has written in place, and there is a whole handbook about work incentives. So what's important for me to tell people, and I'm not going to read this verbatim because it's wordy, and you guys can read it back, and I've given the links to where I've gotten this quote. But work incentives are Social Security's way of saying we acknowledge that having a disability doesn't mean you're done. It just means that there's a stepping stone, and this is a pause. And you're going to have to take a breath, and that's okay. That's what work incentives are. It's not meant to be scary. It's not meant to be pushy. They're meant to be used as a tool to help you continue the work incentives continuum. But it's really important to me as a benefits specialist and as an educator of these work incentives that people know that Social Security isn't there to, take away your benefits. These are work incentives. That means that it's a good. That was a really long way of saying all that, so I apologize, but it's a very important point. All right. So another thing that I just want to mention, because this is another thing that people can sometimes kind of get flip-flopped, is SSI versus SSDI. So SSI is supplemental security income. SSDI is Social Security Disability Insurance. Now, there's big difference here. And a lot of times, and you'll see people say on the social media that, well, I've seen memes, that aren't very nice that say, we're paying for you to live and blah, 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 and welfare and all that stuff. So here's the thing. SSI and SSDI come from two different funding sources. And the important thing to remember is that SSI is for people who don't have a lot of work history, but still need to survive because, hey, they're human. And SSDI is for people who have had work, who do have work history, and have paid money into the Social Security Trust Fund with their taxes. And so they can draw from that. That SSDI is not welfare. SSDI is that person's own money off of their own work record. SSI is for people who don't have that work history, who need that extra assistance. And yes, that one is paid out of the general revenue tax dollars. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about SSI, just a little bit more. So SSI eligibility requirements. To be eligible for SSI, supplemental security income, you must have a disability under Social Security's rules. So in the past few years, there have been kind of major updates to, and this is a great thing, but it has created a little bit of havoc in the kind of disability determination place, office, bureau, whatever. Because the thing is that when medical determinations are updated because science, because, obviously, as, we start to learn more about the human condition and the human body and science gets better, disabilities are going to change and morph, and how we label them are going to change and morph. But that now everybody who has been on Social Security benefits needs to get a new determination. So when you're, it hasn't created a lot of havoc, but it's created I'm trying to think of the right word. They're being thorough. So it's taken a little bit of time to get through the medical determinations. Now, that was in the past. They have, Social Security has definitely sped up over the course of the pandemic with, all those medical requirements and all that stuff. But I'm kind of digressing here a little bit. But what's important to know is that currently Social Security has upgraded their rules, their requirements that what dictate disability. So it's just important to know that it's a little different than it used to be about, say, even 10 years ago. So that's just an important thing to know, is that you have to have a disability under Social Security's rules. Another requirement for SSI is you have to have little to no resources or assets. So just so you all are aware, that generally means a single individual has to have less than $2,000 in the bank for SSI in assets. And then another important note is at the time of application, the individual cannot be earning more than the substantial gainful activity, the amount for that current year, whether that be, usually they would look at the month. That's the generalization. So that's an important thing to know as well. So there are a few different state supplements that you get for living in Wisconsin if you get SSI. So there's the state supplement, which is 8378, and I can list all these numbers as well if people are interested. I can give some follow-up information to Christy. There is also an exceptional expense supplement for people who have more than 40 hours a month need of personal care, community care. I misspoke, not personal care, community care, care in the community. And then there is a caretaker supplement for people who have children. Now, all of these things, the state supplement, generally that should be automatic. I have seen some people not get that state supplement for some reason. It's kind of an odd thing not to get it. So if you have SSI, if you have federal SSI, you should be getting that state. So if you're not, then that's something that you should talk to a benefit specialist about. Same thing with the exceptional expense. All of these, if you get at least like $1 in federal SSI, then you should be getting these. If you qualify for the supplement, then you should be getting them. So this slide, this looks real simple, but so this slide, basically what the work incentives is for SSI is called, it's just an SSI calculation. The most simple way I have figured out to explain it is for every $2 you earn, 1 of your SSI dollars goes away, okay? So now there's a caveat to that, because there are many, not many, but there are a few deductions that are automatic from that. So it isn't just going to be 2 for 1. So it isn't going to be I earn, $4 and 2 of my SSI dollars goes away. There are some deductions that you have to take into account, and there are some other work incentives that you have to take into account depending on disability and the person's situation. So that's why I try to just keep this one slide and the work incentives that go with SSI very simple, because there's no other way to explain it other than this sentence, and there are exceptions. Everyone's situation is unique. So my big caveat to this is, if you have SSI and you want to work, talk to a benefit specialist, or talk to a benefit specialist, find someone, a resource, and they'll be able to point you in the right direction. And I'll be providing some information at the end of the PowerPoint as well. But it's just very important to know that if you want to work and you get SSI, it isn't just a 2 for 1. You have to, there's a little bit more math that goes into it, unfortunately. So so the next thing I wanted to talk about was Social Security disability insurance. So Ssdi, like I said, is based off of the beneficiary's work record. Okay. So to be eligible for Ssdi, you have to have a disability under Social Security's rules. You must have paid enough into the Social Security Trust Fund by paying taxes, and you must be working and earning below the substantial gainful activity level for that current month or year. This year, the substantial gainful activity level for the month is $1,350. And that's gross per month. So if you're earning over that, then you would not be eligible for Ssdi if you tried to apply. There are some, just like with SSI, there are some supplements. These all don't apply. It really depends on your family situation and how much money you paid into the Social Security Trust Fund, and if you have dependents and that kind of stuff. But depending on your situation, there are auxiliary benefits. Auxiliary benefits are the most common. They are they are basically benefits paid to a parent or guardian of a minor, and that's paid off of the parent or guardian's work record. You have a childhood disability benefit. This is actually kind of interesting because this is off of a parent's record, but the child had a disability before the age of 22, but they're now over 18. So try not to go cross-eyed thinking about that one. So that's just, it's kind of, think of that as, yes, it's a benefit from a parent to a child's point of view, but it's also kind of a version of an Ssdi benefit for a adult child. So for instance, I'm legally blind. If I wasn't working, I would be getting my dad's Ssdi benefit. I would get some of my dad's Ssdi benefit because he's retired. But I'm working, so I'm not going to be getting any of my dad's Ssdi benefit. Now, I'm not taking that away from him. I know I said that funny, but it's basically, think of it as you worked enough, you paid enough into the Social Security Trust Fund, you had a kid with a disability, they get to benefit from your work. There's a spousal benefit. Say if you have two people divorce and they've been married long enough, there is a spousal's benefit. There's also survivor's benefits for kids under the age of 18 whose parents do pass away. Let's see, that is not part of the Ssdi benefit, though. I should put a little star next to that one because survivor's benefits is something that people kind of forget about. But then it gets kind of, it's not a gray area, but it needs to be remembered. So some Ssdi work incentives that people you'll generally hear about, and these kind of they go, I don't want to say they go in order because, like I said, there's a work incentive continuum where it's not just, one step after another. It's kind of it's a little bit fluid. But some of the work incentives you'll hear are trial work period, substantial gainful activity, which you heard that one already, extended period of eligibility, IRWs and subsidies, and then expedited reinstatement. So those are the main, kind of the main bare bones work incentives that you'll hear Social Security, if you go on the Social Security website, if you're starting to look around for different types of information about work incentives and that kind of stuff. This is some of the terminology you'll see. All right. So I did want to touch on Medicaid. So there are a metric poop ton of, excuse my French, there are a lot of different types of Medicaid programs. Now there's not, now I say that saying, and I don't mean there's different types of Medicaid programs that, different programs do different things for your health. What I mean is, what I like to say is think of Medicaid as a house, and there are 38 different ways to get into that house in the state of Wisconsin. But generally, rule of thumb is if you financially qualify, if you financially qualify, and you have a disability, or you qualify due to your age, you're going to get some type of Medicaid. Now, something else that's important to know is Medicaid is also known as Title 19 or medical assistance. Those, again, it's kind of benefit literacy. Like if you're at the hospital and you say, I'm on Medicaid, sometimes you'll hear the nurses say T19 or medical assistance or MA. Or sometimes, Medicaid and Medicare get switched, inversed, or sometimes it's hard to kind of pick one in your head. And so sometimes you'll actually also hear people say federal or state. And so Medicaid is state. So if you know that it fits through the state, say it's state Medicaid. That's another way to say it as well. I'm not going to go through all of the Medicaid. I didn't put in the Medicaid different work incentives and that kind of stuff. Basically, Medicaid is we have a really great program in the state of Wisconsin called the Medicaid Purchase Plan, that if you do choose to work, but you would need that Medicaid coverage, it's a great way to keep that at a low to minimal cost, depending on what your financial situation is. It's a really, really great program.
I can say that because I use that program and I'm on this program myself now, and it's great. So
yeah. All right. Awesome. All right. So Medicare. This is the health insurance program that goes with Social Security disability. And generally, there is a 24-month waiting period between eligibility and when your coverage begins for Medicare. The important note is that people with kidney failure will start receiving Medicare coverage immediately. They do not have to wait for that 24-month period. Another important thing to know too, and I did not put this in. I think I might stick it in there before I send this to you, send this off to you, Christy. That there are 3 parts to Medicare. Part A, which is the hospitalization. So say, God forbid, you broke your hip and you have to stay in a rehab facility for a few days or for a week or a month. That would cover that care. The part B is your hospitalization. Nope, said that already. Your part B is your outpatient. There you go. Is your outpatient care. So like your doctor's visits, that kind of stuff. And then your part D is your drug coverage. So it's just important to know those 3 different types. There are actually 4 types. There is a part C or advantage plan, but that would require you going through like a supplement, going through, finding a supplement that suited your needs, and a supplement that suited your needs, and then going through the whole advantage plan process. All right. Let's see. Okay, so other benefit programs that people should just be aware of in the state of Wisconsin. There is food share, which is food stamps. There is energy assistance. There is housing assistance. There's long-term care programs, and there are benefits. So these are all things that a benefit specialist can help you with, and that a benefit specialist can kind of give you an idea of what might happen when you go back to work. All of these things may be affected in different ways, but that's what a benefit specialist job is to kind of synthesize and put together, all of that information for you. So how to access benefits counseling. Before I kind of just tell you what this is, I do want to say that benefits counseling is really important. Every person's situation is unique, and the different work incentives are going to apply to every person. And when you talk to a benefits counselor, they're really going to know what's going on. I take it, honestly, I did it the hard way. I was on benefits and I worked off of them, and I did the overpayment thing, and I didn't, I'm the one that didn't report and made all the mistakes, but then then somehow managed to fix them, and then I learned how to be a benefits counselor. So I literally learned all of the mistakes, and now I'm trying to teach people how to don't do what I do. But yeah, so it's really, benefits counseling is very important. I always say, please, if you can get the knowledge ahead of time of what's going to happen to your benefits, knowledge is power. The more information you have ahead of time, the better. So a couple things. There are two ways to get benefits counseling in the state of Wisconsin. The first way, or I'll say the first way, is if you are in DVR, the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation, or if you are planning on working with DVR, go with them first, because you are due their help, and if you're planning on using them, use them. They're great. I went through them myself as a beneficiary when I was younger, when I was in college, and now I do benefits counseling through DVR as well. There is also a work incentives planning and assistance project. This is a great way for people to get information and benefits counseling. It's free. Both of these are free. The Division of Vocational Rehabilitation is Wisconsin specific, and the link and phone number and information is all will get you to the right place if you're in Wisconsin. Same goes for the Work Incentives Planning and Assistance Project, WIPA. They'll get you to the appropriate people. I think last time I checked, there's 5 or 6 different WIPA provider, CWICs are called Community Work Incentives Counselors for the WIPA project in the state of Wisconsin. So both of these sets of contact information will get you a benefits counselor. Okay. Do we have questions? I know I talked fast.
Yeah, so now if anybody has questions, feel free to ask them. Lauren, should I pause the recording?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. Oh. So I think I don't see any more questions in the chat, but like we were saying, if you do have any other ones, please reach out to Lauren or I after the presentation. And our contact information will be on a upcoming slide. So next slide, Lauren.
Okay.
So these are the presentation takeaways. We talked about what work incentives are and why benefit counseling is beneficial, or Lauren did, by the way. And then she also talked about what types of benefit programs are there for people with disabilities. She did an overview of work incentives of different disability programs. She shared with you how your benefit related insurance may be affected by working. You learned about the benefits of to access counseling. And now we're going to share how the LGBT Center and Lauren at Rogard Advocacy Studios can work together and assist you. And LGBT individuals that have a disability. So, I'm going to talk a little bit about specifically LGBTQ disability issues. So a lot of folks, and there are 40% of people that identify as LGBT also identify as having a disability. That's a big statistic. I always tell people that, like, we're out there, we exist, and service providers and folks are going to have to work with us and learn and grow and educate themselves on how to best provide services to LGBT folks with disabilities. But these are some issues that LGBT folks with disabilities face. So a lot of times folks have limited access to fully inclusive healthcare, and that might be because the doctors, they may know their disability related treatment and stuff, but not really understand the LGBT piece, or the other way around. So also, they might have limited access to fully inclusive community programming. Things might not be accessible, or there might not be ramps or elevators, that type of thing. Increased risk to social isolation. And we've found that not only for folks with disabilities, but also older adults with COVID, that's really been a difficulty and something that folks have faced. Increased discrimination, higher rates of harassment, bullying, and exclusion of youth in schools, kind of related, higher school dropout rates, overrepresentation in the juvenile and the criminal justice system. And then there's invisibility of both communities. And by that, I mean, folks that maybe don't want to accept or again, see that there are LGBTQ folks and that they might also have a disability or other marginalized differences or be part of marginalized communities. And then because of all this fun stuff that I talked previously, folks are more likely to have mental health conditions because of the discrimination and the microaggressions that they have faced over their lifetime. So next slide. This is kind of a statistic that I mentioned earlier. Sorry. According to the Movement Advancement Project, an estimated 3 to 5 million people that are LGBT have disabilities. What that means is 40% of folks identify as bisexual men, 36% identify as lesbians, 36% identify as bisexual women, 26% of folks identify as gay men, and 2 in 5 are transgender adults, and 1 in 4 are LGBT adults. So again, that's a big number. And like I said, we're not going away. Next slide. Oops, let's see. So these are some LGBT issues. Oops, sorry, y'all.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, actually, we don't.
Yeah, hold on. Duplicate.
We're gonna skip that slide. So this is talking about hold on. Marriage equality that was passed on June 26, 2015 for LGBTQ couples in all 50 states. And I remember, I didn't work for the center at the time, but I remember going to Pride and being all excited at one hand, and then kind of being irritated and frustrated and pissed off at another hand, because I was like, okay, well, only half of my identity is being is being accepted or being recognized, and the other half, if I come out and say that, I will lose my insurance, or I'll lose my benefits, or I'll lose what I need to survive and live. So next slide. And I'm going to read through this, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about this related to Roe versus Wade a little bit. But what this means is that there's recognition of same-sex marriages and non-marital legal relationships. On June 26, 2015, the Supreme Court decision, which is for Hodges, it says that that basically same-sex couples have the constitutional right to marry in all 50 states and have their marriage recognized by other states. So because of that, the Social Security Administration now recognizes same-sex couples marriages in all states, and then civil unions or domestic partnerships. So, and Lauren, I'll let you talk about this a little bit later if you want, or you can reach out to us afterwards. But this, this can affect things like SSI, Ssdi, and the eligibility or your eligibility around the payments and the benefits.
Yeah. So essentially, for people who have, for anybody, they actually call it a marriage penalty, to be quite honest. It's kind of this, not, I don't want to say slang term, but it's kind of just what it's known as. People who are on SSI benefits specifically and want to marry but haven't been able to work a lot, basically can't marry without having a good, you essentially what Social Security does is they say, okay, you have two people with two amounts of money, but if they marry, then they're together, then their money is going to go down. So it's like, it's a disincentive to marry for people with on disabilities to marry, and it's hurtful. It makes us feel like we're less, and that's not okay.
Definitely not. It's, yeah. Oh, go ahead, Lauren. Did you have anything you want to add?
No, that was it.
Okay, next slide then.
That was basically what I talked about.
So, oh yeah. What I wanted to mention, and I know because I know there's a lot of things going on and people concerns related to Roe versus Wade, and I'm not going to talk a lot about it. But I know that folks in the disability community, I'm part of, many things on Facebook and many different groups, and there are concerns that stuff related to Roe versus Wade will negatively impact folks with disabilities, not only for reproductive health, but also benefits and other things like that. So, and my best suggestion would be to kind of stay up and, research that. And if you're interested, look at the news and reach out to your representatives. So we got to use our voices.
Yep.
So this, I kind of mentioned this earlier, but
okay.
each of us have different identities, and it's no different for folks that have disabilities and that are LGBT. So this is more for providers, just to be aware that we're not one faceted or one size fits all. We're kind of like an onion. Every human is, you kind of peel back the layers. So so now I'm going to talk about the programs at the center. Like I said, I'm the Aging and Disability Program Coordinator. So what that means is I coordinate or facilitate many of the programs under both these umbrellas. For the older adult program, we have the support group. We do educational sessions on topics related to older adults. We have an advisory committee where folks kind of talk about and share what they'd like to see in programming and take an active role, as well as we're part of the Milwaukee County Department on Aging meal program once a month, where folks can come and get hot meals. Prior to COVID, we had drop-in services folks can reach out to us for referral and resources as well. And 2.5 years, well, yeah, right before the pandemic, that was our first disability support group. But so yeah, about almost 3 years. That's crazy. I reached out to someone in Independence First and said, hey, we should have, you know, there's a need for a support group. And when I went to one of our, we had a meet and greet at the center, and a participant came up to me and said, have you ever thought about doing a support group for folks with disabilities? And I was like, yes, that's already in the works. And they're like, good, because it needs there. And so this support group meets the second and the fourth Mondays of the month. And it's a all age group, all ethnicity, everyone, because disability doesn't discriminate. And it's peer led. There are 2 facilitators, myself, and then Esther Anderson, who works at Independence First. It's really great. We are a small but mighty group. And we actually even have people, and people can join from other states. So if you know anyone, please feel free. And I can also, you can reach out to me and I can share the link for that as well. And you can check it out on our website too. So you can go to the next slide. There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Also, the center provides safety planning for our LGBT brothers and sisters and community members. We know that there are some things that LGBT folks experience that, you know, they might need some more support. So we're here to provide safety planning. We have counseling, support groups, social activities. Right now, a lot of them are still virtual, although we are beginning to see a few more in-person activities. So, but we are here if you need safety planning. So.
All right.
And then I just put some additional resources for you all. It has the Movement Advancement Project link, a link to our website, and then a link to the Disability Resource Center of Milwaukee County, or the ADRC. And then gender pronouns. Gender pronouns are important. We always share that if you're not sure what pronoun to use for a person, or you're uncomfortable with pronouns, the best thing to do is to follow the lead of the person. And a lot of times, if you look at the bottom half of this chart, you go with they, them, or z, zir, zirs, and those are the ones that folks kind of have the most difficulty with understanding. They're like, well, they, them, where does that come from? That's not 2 people. It's not about grammar or what's grammatically correct. It's how the person identifies. So they don't identify, they kind of identify on the spectrum or on like a scale, and that's okay. Your identity can change from year to year, from month to month. It's fluid. So and if anybody has any other questions about that, I can further talk about it or send information. So that is the end of our presentation. Lauren, and my information is on this slide. I'm also going to put, and I forgot to mention it earlier, because of the grant that the center gets, we ask that people who view our presentations take a survey. So I'm going to put the link in there. And then for folks that are going to watch this afterwards, I will be sending out a PDF, the actual video of the presentation and the link to the survey. So please take it and share so that I can make changes and keep improving these and getting you information that you find helpful. So thank you everyone for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you at future educational sessions. Take
Bye.
care. Bye.